The moon is out, the time is right to watch Dating with Demoldey tonight. The Sopranos are here, Carmela and Tony, it's Mafia Week. On Dating with Demoldey, Demoldey grants your dating wishes. Click away, you'll be swimming with the fishes. So get your popcorn, your soda pop, Dating with Demoldey. Don't you stop.
All right, so the next part of this whole Sopranos equation, if you will, might be the biggest one, to be honest with you. It's number 4, conflict resolution. So, a big part of Tony and Carmela's relationship is their ability and lack thereof to have healthy conflict. Throughout the show, we see a lot of trends with their communication. Some good, some is good, but a lot of it is really bad. A lot of it's very unhealthy, and it's unfortunate because you know Carmela and Tony do have that kind of chemistry, right? They have that, which is kind of wild because I think that like Edie Falco is so beautiful, and then I don't see Tony as that attractive at all. I mean, he's a powerful guy. He's funny. He's got the gift of gab, all that shit. But like between them, you know, I don't know. Whatever. Not my place to judge. But I digress. What I'm trying to say is, it's a shame because they both individually have some good qualities, but they just have all these, I mean, mainly Tony, but Carmela as well. They both share these unfortunate relationship qualities that really do them a disservice, unfortunately. So just looking at some of these trends, there's some good, some bad. I guess we could start with, the good. I'm not going to try. I'm not organized enough to break down both like one and the other, so I'm just going to go through kind of all of them. But when it comes to good, I think the bedroom talks, as I've mentioned in the previous sections, it's the gold standard for marriages and their relationship, for sure. Their ability to have bedroom conversations that are a little bit more level-headed, rational, empathetic, that's really what sustains them. We see it often where their kitchen conversations aren't necessarily great, and then you see their bedroom conversations and they're really respectful and kind, and we'll get into this in theme number 5, but you know, there's some emotional intimacy there where Tony lets his guard down, he's a little bit more gentle, she's more gentle. I mean, plenty of times where she asks him, hey, like, are you okay? Like, is there anything you want to talk about? You know, in the bathroom, they talk about things. And it's generally a healthy thing, right? We also see within their conflict, too, there are some times where they both find compromise. And so the issue is with the word compromise, a lot of people have a negative connotation, especially these days, with the word compromise. A lot of the younger generation has been told that they should never compromise, that they should always strive for the best and never settle for less, never settle. You deserve A plus 100, whatever, right? Now, the issue is, we all deserve the best. We all deserve to have the things we want in life. We should always strive to have them, of course. But, you know, we also have to be realistic. We also have to understand when we have to take an L, so to speak, where we have to compromise, where we have to be pragmatic, be realistic, and realize, like, we can't have what we want all the time. That's just illogical, right? Like, we have to sometimes make concessions, especially with the people we love, because if two people want different things, how are you going to remedy that? Who's going to win? You can't both win. It's not possible. It's not logically possible. So when you both can't win, you compromise. And so you both win in that regard. You don't win 100%, but you win somewhat, which is better than nobody winning, or only one person winning and another person losing. That's what I think is the issue, is people misinterpret, misunderstand the word compromise to mean, oh, well, that means I have to lose so my partner can win. No, that's not what compromise is. Compromise is we both win 50%. That's it. That's what it is, you know? So finding that middle ground. Again, meeting each other halfway. These are classic tenets of healthy relationships. So we do see this with Tony and Carmela, where they do compromise at times. Not often, but you see it, right? Like we saw it with the financial thing, right? Where at first Tony's, pretty reluctant to sign this living trust thing, and I guess kind of the issue that I have is that Carmela has to hound him and not pull off every trick in the book, but do a lot just to get him to agree to that. But he eventually does it, right? Or even with it's all this stuff is with money, really, with the donation to Columbia, right? Same thing, where she has to, give him the cold shoulder and do all these things, and finally he gives in and gives the money, right? But eventually he does compromise, and we see this too with even external stuff, where Carmela, asks a favor of Tony, like, oh, can you be at my dad's birthday party, even though they were separated, and Tony pulls through and does that for her, even though they were separated and he would rather not really be there, So little stuff like that, like they do compromise on. So I think that's good. Like Tony, Tony not killing Meadows' soccer coach. Wow, such a big step of growth, right? But that's kind of true, It's kind of how it is. So I'm going to get into a lot of the bad stuff right now, because that's all that I have in my mind. So I took notes on every single one of the episodes of the series. A lot of pages, a lot of notes. And for every single one of these themes, I put also another piece of paper with all these other examples, right? So when you think of Tony and Carmela, you really break down their interactions. Like I mentioned, some of their conflict resolution is solid. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say a lot. There are moments where it's okay, where they solve things kind of in their own way, and Tony laments and says, "Okay, you're right, Carm. Like, okay, that's fine. We'll do it your way, right?" Carmela feels heard and listened to. It's like, okay, wow, we actually got somewhere. Like that was good, But there's a lot of ways that they're terrible. Oh, okay, let's talk about something that's good. I'll give it to them this way. Tony and Carmela do attend therapy a lot, which is kind of wild to consider. Like, there's people that aren't even sociopaths that would never even touch therapy, and yet Tony Soprano, a man who is killed, beaten, done so many terrible, awful things, even he goes to therapy. Now, that's not to say that if you go to therapy, you're some magically amazing person, but it is kind of strange. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it is kind of an interesting thing that he agrees to go to couples therapy with his wife. Like that, I'm surprised he did that. But I guess what I'm trying to say, they have solid conflict in the sessions. So in that way, they are good, because they actually do kind of talk. I wrote one thing down here that sometimes Carmela can be a good communicator. Not always, but she can be. I noticed once in season 4 she used an I statement, which I was like, oh my god, that's incredible. So an I statement is basically, where, because a lot of people will deflect or they'll talk about how their partner feels instead of how they feel. And so like that's a huge thing within therapy is owning your feelings. Not making any guesses or speculation on what your partner's feeling, just speaking from your own experience, because that's all you can do. So she says something along the lines of like, when you do this thing, I feel this way. When you do, and so I think it's when you trivialize this family's money or whatever, it makes me feel unloved, is what she said. Something like that. And that's a really powerful sentence she said, and I applaud her for using that language. Like, wow, you were very succinct. You told Tony exactly how you felt. Like, shout out to you, Carmela. Like, that's big. That's big time. So, I want to applaud her for saying that. But yeah, I mean, you look at everything else, and it's pretty bad. So, I guess the main thing that really stands out throughout the relationship is the way that they have little conflicts and the way that they talk to each other in general. So like, Italian culture, East Coast culture, the Soprano culture in general, a lot of sarcasm, a lot of breaking balls, right? A lot of kind of being an asshole. That's just part of their thing. And I'm not trying to say that like sarcasm or messing around or joking around is unhealthy. It's part of the culture, right? It's not meant to be super serious, but they do blur the line where it becomes a little bit unhealthy a lot, especially when they fight, right? They are constantly making snide remarks, constantly making these sarcastic comments that are meant to hurt each other. And so there's this thing from the Gottman method, where it's called the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, right? I know I've talked about this before, but basically, John Gottman came up with this idea of 4 things in a relationship that, if you see them, you are kind of, like it's not a good thing. Like you might be headed for a divorce. Is basically what it's saying. So the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse is what it's called. The first one, criticism. Instead of addressing tough issues, basically, it's like you're critiquing the person. And you're saying, you do this, you always do this thing, blah, 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 blah. Defensiveness, never taking accountability for things that might be true. Oh, well, at least I don't do blank blank, that sort of thing. Stonewalling, which happens a ton in life, is basically just giving someone the cold shoulder, ignoring them, not communicating, just being a wall, like just icing someone out, And then contempt is where you're really, lashing out at someone, name calling, eye rolling, being dismissive, sarcastic comments. We see that a lot with Tony and Carmela. I mean, the contempt is just crazy, a crazy amount. And the things that they say to each other are just so mean. I mean, especially, well, I mean, they both really, I mean, they're both insanely guilty of it, right? Their language is very harmful, very hurtful, borderline abusive. I mean, really, like, obviously, as we know, it's television. It's not real. It's played up for laughs or for dramatic effect. I get that. But if we're really analyzing this, I mean, you see this all the time. I'm just writing down all these quotes, right? Calling each other whiny little bitch. Tony, honestly, I can't tell if you're a good guy or if you're just a fucking asshole. Let's see. Always with the drama, right? Like, and Tony uses that. AJ uses that, and even Johnny Boy used that, right? With Tony's mom. That's where he got it from. Always with the drama, So very undermining phrase when Carmela feels a certain way, and Tony says, always with the drama, you're being dramatic, very gaslighty sort of. You're the one who's crazy. You're the one who is overreacting. Instead of being empathetic and validating, he says a phrase like that, right? Carmela, she also participates in it too. I'm well aware that you're depressed, and saying stuff like that. Like she really doesn't have as much patience for his depression and his mental health as much as she should. And maybe she feels like he uses that as a crutch, but I think that the way she goes about communicating that is unhealthy. I mean, she really does make a lot of snide remarks. Calls him the mental patient, right? Which I didn't feel like was warranted. There's a scene, he's in Italy, and it's so funny. Like the trip phone call is such a funny thing. When partners are on a trip and they're not together, when like one's on a business trip and the other's at home, like those phone calls. I mean that they're always on. I don't know if I've just seen like uncomfortable, awkward business trip phone calls, but those are important to keeping a relationship going. And you see it. It's like, oh yeah, it's kind of bad here, Tony says, and she goes, as bad as this phone call, like, and then he goes, well, fuck you, like I'm off this phone call, right? And so anyway, so that's something I noticed is that, Carmela can't communicate displeasure without taking a shot. She just takes shots all the time. Like, oh, he eats his carrots, when he notices the haircut, or like, I've been really busy. So what? I'm not busy. Yeah, makes season 3 makes really hurtful comments like, oh, he finally gets out of bed, stuff like that, right? Oh yeah, they both swear at each other all the time. The classic scene, right, where season 5, where he comes in and she's like, fuck you, and he goes, fuck me, fuck you. It's so good. He like drops a pizza, and then he comes back and gets the pizza and walks out. Such a funny scene. Obviously not great, but the way they argue is just absolutely terrible. Saying shit like, oh, 0 to bitch in no time, or plenty of bad things like, oh, you're entitled to shit. When she says, I want what I'm entitled to, you're entitled to shit. And there's also moments where Carmela really does get pretty vulnerable in some of their fights, right? The big fight happening, of course, in season 5 when they separate. He made me feel like I mattered. It's such a cutting line. It's the whole Furio thing where she says, I was in love with Furio, blah, 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 blah. And so she makes a lot of jabs like, oh yeah, I was thinking about him and thinking about him touching me and blah, 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 blah. And, that's all very petty and like, I'm saying this to hurt you sort of thing. But when she says, he made me feel like I mattered, like that's just a true statement, Yeah, I just think that they both really make a lot of snide comments to each other. And I don't think it's right. I don't think that is how you build a healthy, loving relationship. They both do it. Tony obviously is a lot more harsh and cursing and can be very dismissive, right? But when you think about what Carm does, oh yeah. Hell, like, so Carmela once, like, she sells her house, right? Does a cool thing, buys land and puts a house on it, fixes it up, and sells it for a profit, right? And at first, Tony's super supportive, like, oh, awesome, I'm so proud of you, blah, blah, blah. And then asks for some money to, like, gamble, because he lost a ton of money gambling. He's like, oh, well, like, this is my money, like, I made it. And so then he's like, okay, you're right, I'm sorry, like, that's on me. And then later on, turns around and then calls her thing bullshit, And then they start fighting. So, like, we see this a lot with Tony, where he does something and wants brownie points for it, and then goes back and throws it in Carmela's face. it's the same thing with the gifts thing, right? Where, I guess we can bring this up now, but like, one of the main trends you see with their communication, or at least the way that Tony and Carmela have conflict, is that Tony tries to smooth over conflict with gifts. That is his number one thing he does, is give her stuff. She catches him with the gumar. Bam, I'm going to give you this ring. I'm going to give you this fur coat. I'm going to give you a car. I'm going to give you a gift. It's like clockwork. It's just what he does to try and smooth over a fight. He gets her things. And then later on, throws it in her face. Oh, this is all money to you. It's all about money. You're divorcing me because you're afraid you're not going to have the lifestyle that you want. And it's bullshit. I mean, you can't, like Tony, the reason why like altruism is a great thing is like you're giving something without the expectation of anything in return. That's how giving should work. You shouldn't give somebody something because you expect something back. Like that's not love. That's like an employer-employee relationship, Now that said, you don't want to be always giving. You do want to get stuff back, but it shouldn't be required. It shouldn't be a tit-for-tat, like one-for-one transactional love. That's not love. That's not really love. So anyway, in that way, like Tony, don't give stuff to your wife if you're going to use it against her in a fight. That's not fair. You gave that to her because you were trying to cover it up. And that's a huge thing, is he's insanely manipulative in this way. He tries to cover up some affair he had or whatever by getting her things and distracting her from the real issue. And that's what we saw with Whitecaps, right? Let's buy her a house. She's going to love me. And then she finds out about Irina, right? And it's like, this isn't how it should work. You should just be better. You shouldn't have to like get someone something to cover up your mistakes. And when you say, there's times where they have fights, and Carmela finding out about all these different women he's been with, and she says, I just want you, right? Like, I just want you, and they talk about like him getting a vasectomy and all that. He says, all I want is you, and then he says, okay, well, you got me. And he just lies through his teeth, and then he spends the next entire time cheating all the time. So, as much as, you could say, Tony, great job for getting her gifts, like, they're all made in vain. They're all a manipulation tactic to just keep your wife happy. And it's unfortunate. And to be honest, it's more unfortunate that Carmela doesn't see that trend. Like, hey, whatever gives you something. And she says that. Oh, you got me flowers. Why? Oh, no reason. I don't know if I believe that, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think you should. I don't know. I mean, she should have left this guy a long time ago. But I digress. But we see that a lot, where Tony sends her stuff, and she accepts the gifts, and she loves it, and then they, like, have sex or whatever happens. And so that's the trend. Another trend we see, too, is Carmela avoiding conflict a lot. She, we talk about the Four Horsemen, right? She is a stonewalling queen. And I don't mean to say that in a complimentary way. She loves to stonewall. She will ice Tony out so hard. We see that throughout the series. That when she doesn't get what she wants, she will ice him. She will ice the crap out of him. It's bad, dude. It's bad. She loves to stonewall. And we see it's always with money. We see this money conversation happen throughout the seasons, because, and we'll get to this later with the whole agency conversation, but multiple times where Tony kind of blows her off, and I'm not saying that Tony's not at fault. He shouldn't have blown her off. He should have met her with legitimate effort in the conversation, but he doesn't. He's dismissive. That's not good. But she then, in retaliation, because she's mad that she didn't get what she wanted out of the conversation, she didn't get money or financial security or guarantees, she then ignores him for episodes. At bedtime, doesn't talk to him. At dinner, doesn't talk to him. Throughout the day, just completely ignores him, and that's not right. You shouldn't be at a place where I have to ignore you for you to do something. On both ends. She should be able to to communicate with him, and or, if he doesn't want to budge, he says, you know what, this is a non-starter for me. I'm not gonna sign this will. Like, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. And she doesn't accept that. Then what? Like, you're just gonna not talk to him every time you don't get what you want? That's not healthy. You have to accept and compromise yourself, right? So, yeah, I just think that Carmela can be very immature with that, where she ices him out. And maybe that's just because she has no other power in the relationship, which is also true. But it's not great. We also see a lot of nonverbal communication happen. That's not great either. For example, both of them kind of being petty to one another, where she drains the pool, because Tony loves to swim in the pool. And she's like, oh, well, I had to drain the pool. But, it's only because Tony earlier had taken out the DVD player that Carmela was using to host her friends over, for the little movie nights. So they both do these things at each other, these jabs, these, stabs in the heart to hurt each other. It's not great. And you want to talk about nonverbal communication. There is multiple incidents of violence that happens between the two. Now, Christopher and Adriana, are a hell of a lot more physically abusive than Chris to Aid, than Tony to Carmela. But it still happens. It still happens. To where she could have grounds to, throw him in jail or get a divorce for sure, right? She fears for her life. There's multiple times where he puts hands on her, they get physical, and they're screaming, they're yelling, doors are slamming, where everything reaches a fever pitch, right? Like, she's screaming, get away from me, get away from me. He's slamming the door, breaking it off its hinge, sort of thing, punching holes in the wall. She's crying. And she even throws a vase at him one time. So I'm not trying to say, oh, Carmela's just as guilty. No, he's definitely more of the aggressor, right? But it's this environment of violence and hostility that's not great. It's not ideal. It's not healthy. Not healthy at all. So anyway, it's not good. And they both kind of antagonize each other. And somebody misconstrue that as love, or like, oh, that's just passion. They're just funny people. That's how they are. It's like, no, this is different. There's a difference between teasing and like, I'm going to say something to hurt you and hurt your feelings and like really make you feel worthless. That's not funny. That's not cute, right? But yeah, it's just a lot of inconsistency I see from the both of them. I mean, especially Tony, where he gives in, and then the next thing you know, they're fighting and they're threatening divorce, and just calling each other names. And oh yeah, another thing I noticed was I want what I'm entitled to conversation where Carmela invites him to lunch and then says, I'm serving you with divorce papers, and he gets all offended. Oh, you brought me to a public place because you knew I wouldn't cause a scene. She's smart, because that's true. If she would have done this at home, who knows what he could have done. And I think she was smart for that, because he would have, he probably would have put hands on her. You never know, right? Not great. Not great at all. I noticed, at the end of season 5, where he says, where they get back together, which is just a wild thing. I can't believe they did that. But, they give concessions, and I guess if you want to claim that this was their good conflict resolution, I guess you could say that, but I don't think it is, because of the context in which it happens. But, Tony admits he was wrong, like, whatever, but at the end of the day, he says the line, I am what I am. Basically saying, I'm not going to change. You're getting what you signed up for, sort of thing. That's said throughout the series. Oh, Carmela, you knew what you signed up for. This is who I am, blah, blah, blah. And she even kind of says it too at times. Like, oh, like, I can understand the Gumars or whatever. And so that's the issue, is there's this kind of implicit understanding. Oh, well, this is what you get. But it's not really fair. But yeah, I just think Tony's like promises don't really mean anything, and that's the issue with their relationship is, oh, well, Tony accepted fault. He said he was going to change. He apologized. That's all good. Yeah, it is kind of good, but it's an empty promise, so it doesn't really mean anything. Part of being in a healthy relationship, yeah, it is apologizing, but it's meaning your apology. It's following through with what you say you're going to do, and he doesn't. He continually cheats on her. Not great. Not great at all. A lot of times they storm off at each other. A lot of storming out of the room. Never like sitting in the discomfort really. Another thing I meant to mention is a huge thing that they should do that they don't do is they don't take breaks when they're fighting. They just let things spiral and get out of control, right? Like there's so many times where they're in the middle of a fight that they could have been a little bit more mindful and said, hey, hold on, like this is getting really out of hand. I'm feeling pretty heightened. I'm not in a good space. Like I need to go because I'm going to say something I don't mean, but let's talk about this later. Is that okay? There's so many times where couples could do that, and they'll say themselves a world of heartbreak, a world of heartache. Talk about saying shit that you don't mean. Like sometimes you need space in the middle of an argument because you're just so heated that you need cooler heads to prevail to save your relationship. Because how many times do you say something really hurtful that you can't take back, and that ruins your relationship forever? There's so many times when that happens. And I'm not here to say, like, I think a lot of people, including myself, want to pretend that they're holier than thou and think, oh, well, like, I would never say that. I would never say something so harmful to a person I love. And I'm not, I'm sure there are people that are genuinely, like, the saints, like, that are just, like, incredible people, would never say a bad word about anybody. But I think that humans are very emotional people by nature. And sometimes we can get carried away. It happens, even to the best of us. What I'm saying is that, like, that stuff can happen. And that it's important to recognize before things get too unhinged or out of hand, like, all right, hey, hold on, we need to take a break. Like, this is not healthy, whatever. And Tony and Carmela don't do that, which is an issue. So, anyway, yeah, there's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of the Four Horsemen that we see with them both. I mean, Carm especially. I mean, we see this in couples therapy where she's super defensive. She got super defensive with Dr. Melfi. And, and also saying stuff towards Melfi like, oh, this isn't working, you haven't done anything for him, stuff like that, which is, not ideal. We see this as well with, they play relationship chicken a lot. They play chicken with their feelings a ton. For example, when Carmela finds the nail from Valentina in Tony's laundry, right? And she just puts the nail on the nightstand to say, hey, I know you're cheating. And then comes down. It's like, oh, anything you want to talk about? Nothing? Nothing you want to talk? It's like, hey, how about you stop avoiding conflict and just address this head on, But they're both petty and, like, they try to avoid the real issues at play. A big thing is that they don't really take responsibility or seek solutions or compromise. Sometimes, that it can happen, but they don't try to work together. A big thing in a relationship is not me versus you, it's us versus the problem. And they don't really adhere to that kind of way of going about it. So, at any rate, these are the things. Hopefully that was enough for you, but yeah, not great. They definitely need to learn how to have better conflict for sure.
Dating with Demoldey, he's an Italian hero, end of story. Dating with Demoldey.
woke up this morning.
Flirting with the Moldies on.
Tony and Carmela, plenty of right and wrongs. We ain't no fats, no racks, no wiretaps. This on this video, I'll break your kneecaps. Dating with the Moldy.
Dating with the Moldies.
An Italian hero.
In our story.
Dating with the Moldy and all.